Hi, I'm Kevin,
And I'm Amanda.
and we are serving up.
All that jam. A lighthearted look at the weekend jam bands.
Where we break down the jam scene's biggest stories,
Talk new bands
upcoming tours.
and show reviews. A little laughing, some hot takes, and an always positive message for the community.
January 2nd, 2023.
Happy New Year, and welcome to the New Year edition of All That Jam. I'm here with Amanda. We have the top three stories of the week, as always. We also were going to do a quick little recap of some of what we saw went on last night for New Year's. And also, we have our interview with Pixie and the Partygrass Boys. So let's jump off the top. How we doing, Amanda?
Kevin, I'm good. It's been a very relaxing day here. Hope you had a good New Year's Eve. I know we chatted a little bit.
Yes, I had a great time. Did the show with Tim afterwards on Walk Plus, and we we got flagged by Nugs, but we worked it out. Nugs, I mean, the fly fish people turned out to be pretty cool. They were like, "We get what you're doing. We understand you're not, trying to bootleg us or anything. You're just being yourself."
Well, and you
So,
know what? If you're getting attention, that's a good thing. Means you're
yeah,
doing something right.
exactly. So, did you watch fish? Did you watch goose? You catch a little bit of everything?
I tried to play the field. I got stuck on fish for obvious reasons. I just could not look away, and so ended up watching 90% fish. Did see some goose in between fish's first and second sets.
I caught the end of Spafford's set at like 2 in the morning. They were free on YouTube, and that's I've heard about Twiddle a little bit. Twiddle did a '90s themed set last night, and I guess they did a Spin Doctors tune. They did a Nirvana tune. It looked interesting. Did you hear any other things from other shows?
Yeah, so String Cheese, I feel like, is a band that is made for New Year's Eve in some respects because they've always been all about the production and kind of getting hippie, spacey with it. So the outfits were on point. There's some great pictures out there, even their own stuff, like on their Instagram. Um, they did the traditional three sets, but I think what I loved is they had, the father time routine, some great outfits, but across the 3 night run, I think they really just brought it. And I have a very good friend of mine who lives near their practice location where they rehearse. And she had said that over the last month, they have been rehearsing 24 hours a day, bringing in Judith Hill, bringing in all the guests. And so I just
What
think
was
they
there
were
a
ready for
theme
it.
to it, or was it just, hey, it's New Year's, it's a celebration, we're going to be festive?
Yeah, I don't think there was so much of a particular theme, but they did play some first time played songs. They did a Simon and Garfunkel tune, a Blind Faith tune. They had a little bit of a rap, a Little Feat rap in one of the songs they did. That was all last night, and so to me, it was really just about they brought so much energy
They were playing.
into
They
everything
played
they
out there
did.
in Denver.
Yeah, yeah, they were at the
Okay.
Mission Ballroom, which is a great spot. And, the tickets, interestingly, I think we were talking about fish and the reduction overall in ticket prices. Well, out here was the opposite. After J-Red got canceled, people wanted to go to Cheese. So those tickets were going for upwards of 200 a pop
Right.
for
And
one night.
then, Sound Tribe, I guess everybody downstream from that probably picked up some people there. Now, there was a show in
Yeah,
Cincinnati that I've heard a little bit of buzz about. I know that you had somebody on the ground there. So, what have you heard?
people. So here's the thing. I haven't been able to talk too much to my sources, but I was just curious because it didn't seem like they did a gag or anything in particular. I did see Jeff look very spiffy in the sport coat type situation, which was very cool. But I'm assuming that that going forward, their New Year's Eves might be maybe a little less uh, antics driven, which kind of follows suit, right, with
Sure,
who they are.
definitely. And it's tough to
Yeah,
do
yeah,
once, I mean, fish has done it. You're always going to be, compared to fish if you do some theme thing. And they're trying to get away from that desperately, I think. They don't want to be compared to fish.
yeah. Yeah, and I think that that's probably smart in the long term. I think they had some kind of group outfit going on, all in white. I was seeing in one of my very active messenger threads some notes about the gun show, some sleeveless tanks. But other than that, I did not watch. I was watching Fish, same
Right,
time zone.
exactly.
Gotta make a choice. Once that started, I
Did you
wasn't
hear
going anywhere.
about Government Mule? Yeah,
Having to
they
reschedule
canceled,
again.
and I haven't I looked. I haven't seen anything. Someone told me that they think it was something with Warren, maybe his shoulder again.
Mhm.
I know that Danny didn't play in Asheville for the Christmas show, so I thought it might have been him. But whatever's going on over there, we're wishing him the best.
Absolutely. Yeah, I don't think they gave, I think they, what
Medical
did they just say? A
emergency, right?
medical
And they didn't
emergency.
even assign it to anybody particular person there. So, but
That did make me think though, there's a lot of bands who I think have been extremely lucky health wise to tour and do shows for so long.
right.
But
That's
what
got to
can
be
happen
tough for
is,
those people, though.
yeah,
I know they've
absolutely.
been waiting a long time. So, all right, enough of that. We're going to probably post something about New Year stories over the week. Maybe some people can give us some of their good things. And we have the thing about miracles coming up at some point.
Yes, I am collecting some information, some stories, trying to get a little more in depth than maybe we
Nice.
normally do. Just because usually those stories, whether you're the receiver or the recipient of a ticket or the one that's giving that, usually there's a pretty good
There
tale
you
in there
go. All right, so
somewhere.
let's jump into these top three stories of the week.
The top three stories of the week.
So, first up, this is something that I only caught halfway through the MSG run. This is an article about Madison Square Garden's facial recognition software. Have you heard about this, Kevin?
I saw some lawyer friends of ours on Twitter a little sketched.
Yeah, so, and this isn't, of course, just a fish thing, but in general, MSG Entertainment has been using facial recognition software to identify and actually, in some cases, even exclude guests from entering venues owned by the company, which, of course, also includes Radio City Music Hall. There was a mom who wasn't allowed to enter the Christmas Spectacular, the Rockettes big holiday thing.
Oh,
Yeah. Um, and it kind of makes me think of this question, obviously the run's over at this point, but just should we be concerned? Is this something we should be paying?
no, this has to do with the law firm that is suing MSG for some reason. There's an active lawsuit going on. So they're saying that they're just not letting lawyers from that law firm in because of the ongoing litigation.
Yes. So that was, her name's Kelly Conlon. Yeah. She's a lawyer from New Jersey. She was the one who couldn't get into Radio City because she was on some kind of attorney exclusion list. But just think about that. That means that if that's legal, right? If that sticks, what other reasons could they have to deny
And some of
entry?
these people have nothing to do with the lawsuit. I
Yeah.
mean, it makes you look guilty as hell, whatever you're doing.
Right. Yeah.
But don't exclude me. You can't see my face on this.
Yeah. And the thing is that, every state is different. So in New York, that kind of facial recognition technology is legal. But I know that the legality of the list, like itself, is now being challenged in a couple of different cases.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, we'll have to keep our eye on that.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
Man, remember the day where you could kind of fudge the date on a ticket and put your finger over one side of it and almost always get into the show?
Exactly.
These are gone. They're gone.
Those days are
They've
gone.
been gone. Fair enough. But up next, gonna share with you. Actually, I know we already talked about cheese, but I was just gonna mention really briefly because I'm super excited for them. That as
We like cheese.
Yeah, I do. Well, I really had a very brief but intense love affair with them in the very late '90s, early 2000s. Like a lot of people I know,
Yeah.
actually. Uh,
Same.
yeah. But as part of this run of shows for the New Year's Eve holiday, they were inducted into the Colorado Music Hall of Fame, which is definitely a big deal. I thought it would have happened already, to be honest, because it's them, but nope. So that was on their Thursday show. So the first of their 3 performances, which had some really great special guests too, like Kanika Moore. So prior to the start of that first set, Don Strasberg and a few other folks from the Colorado Hall of Fame spoke about their legacy, kicking off in 93. And then Keith, the bassist, kind of spoke on behalf of the band, and just a special moment. I'm really glad that happened at the show. That had to be pretty cool for everybody.
So is John Denver? I'm gonna have to look. You don't know this off the top of your head. I wonder who's like the biggest name in the Colorado Musicians Hall of Fame is.
I mean, there's got to be some amazing ones, right? Just because it's out here, the music scene.
Exactly. String Cheese deserves it. What happened for me was they made the jump. All of a sudden they were playing like UMBC, the arena, the basketball arena at UMBC, and it lost the charm for me of seeing them in a nightclub, a 500 to 1,500 seat place.
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah, so John Denver is an inductee. That was 2011. He was inducted. Let's see. I'll just throw a couple other ones out there for you that we might know. Bill Frisell, love that. That was 2017, so kind of recently. Lots of local bands, too, which I think is great. Glenn Miller, obviously not local, but
another one. Leftover in there?
They should be, if they haven't already been inducted, unless they haven't yet.
They were around before String Cheese.
Yeah.
They were like the original jam grass kind of thing.
I agree. Yeah, they have definitely paved the way for...
What was that? Fire Up the Kind Bud or Fire Up the Ganja, and they sang it to Fire on the Mountain. Yeah. That was so fun. Yeah. Good for them.
They're hilarious. They're such a hoot. And they've always been like that, which I love. So John Denver and Red Rocks were the 2 inductees into the inaugural class in 2011.
Oh, Red Rocks.
They've really only been doing this, for relatively a short amount of time.
Right. Did you live in Colorado when Alfalfa's existed? String Cheese used to have a song, Alfalfa's, about this organic grocery store in Boulder.
No.
And you would go to it and you'd have the song playing in your head.
That's awesome. No, but it is great to drive around and see a lot of the places that are mentioned, because Colorado is everything in their music. It's just all over. So that's always fun when you can kind of recognize, some places that you know. Yeah, so congrats to them. Like you said, completely well-deserved. Switching gears just a little bit, but Kev, new year, fresh start. Do you do resolutions? Are you a resolution person?
No. I have a theory on resolutions.
Yeah, I do not do resolutions either, for a couple of reasons. We might have similar thoughts on that. But one thing I did come across that I thought might be good for some of us, Moby has dropped an Ambient 23 LP. I think it's 2.5 hours, in his own words, that is made to help anxiety. So it's a 16-track set, and it's inspired by some of his heroes. So Brian Eno, Will Sargent, a bunch of other people. And as he says, it's made exclusively with weird old drum machines and old synths. So released on New Year's Day.
Nice. Yeah, my thing with resolutions is, to choose, I'm going to do this on New Year's Day, you're putting extra pressure on something, whereas opposed to a random Tuesday in the middle of February, you're like, all right, today I'm going to quit smoking. I think you have a lot better chance than all the announcing to the world, this is the great thing I'm going to do this year. And then I almost feel like it sets you up for failure, instead of being quiet about it on some random day. And then 2 weeks later being like, yeah, I only smoked 1 pack of cigarettes in 2 weeks, or whatever your goal is.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And there's been a bunch of stuff posted on different blogs for the new year about that, saying, reconsider what you're thinking about. But I like this. So the note that Moby put out with the LP, alongside some pictures and whatnot, is it said, for 23, may we all be less anxious, and may we all stop looking for validation from a culture we don't respect.
Nice.
There you go.
A little anarchy.
Yeah.
Good for him. All right, so that's fantastic. I'm going to have to check the Moby thing out. I'm a big fan of the ambient kind of things.
Me too.
All right, let's jump in with Pixie.
Awesome, yeah. So we were very happy to be joined by 3 of the 5 members of Pixie and the Partygrass Boys, based in Utah, and had a really great conversation about some of the origins of the band, what they have coming up now. They may have revealed some tour dates they weren't supposed to. It was a really fun conversation.
Yes, it was great. And this first clip we get into with them where the name comes from, and we talk about chicken and whiskey. So let's check it out and we'll talk on the other side.
So, yeah, like speaking of what you play, I've seen a couple of different definitions of partygrass, but I'm curious if someone wants to give their take on it. And I can read you one of my favorites, but kind of curious what you all might say about that.
I don't know, because other people have described it so much cooler than we can.
I'm
so curious.
I can read one.
Yeah, please. I'm so curious which one's
Yeah,
your favorite.
share
I'm curious
your
if it's my
favorite.
favorite.
Okay, so this is from Mountain Town Music, and I'm trying to see what the date is. It doesn't have a date on it, but it mentions that you spread the gospel of whiskey and chickens, and you blend elements of pop, punk, jazz, and funk with classic bluegrass to create a unique style. Curious about the whiskey and chickens, I guess, number one, but the rest of that, would you agree with it?
Yeah, whiskey and chicken sounds like a very southern thing, not a Utah thing.
Yeah, I was like super curious.
Well, so much of the whiskey and chickens was just how we all became friends. Well, how I became friends with the boys. I mean, they've known each other forever, but when we first all started being a band, we were rehearsing at my house. And I grew up on a very small farm. And for the first time as an adult in Utah, I had gotten chickens about the same month that we started practicing. So I had these cute, tiny little baby chicks, and they're irresistible. You can't help but just hold them as often as possible. So the boys would come over for band practice, and unspoken, it just started happening that someone would bring a bottle of whiskey, and we would drink way too much of that whiskey while letting tiny baby chickens run around the living room and putting them on our instruments. And it just sort of became the way we became friends. And then our bass player writes very silly songs. And one time leaving rehearsal, I stole Ben's mandolin and pretended I knew chords. And over top of it, our bass player sang a line which has since become our theme song, which is "We like chickens and we like fun. Let's have whiskey with everyone." And it just stuck. It stuck, and it never went anywhere. And we started playing these gigs at bars where our friends and fans would come out and drink all of the bar's well whiskey. And this happened again and again and again. And it just kind of became part of the ethos of partygrass.
Side
The
note, though,
legend.
7 years later, we're kind of
legend.
into tequila now.
It is weird that our brand is whiskey and chickens, because we do all ask for tequila now.
Yeah,
Tequila and tofu?
Huh?
Tequila and tofu?
Tequila and tofu.
Tequila and tofu. Honestly, sometimes, yes. I do like that description. Can I read you my favorite description that anyone's ever?
Yeah,
Of course.
that would be awesome.
Okay, this one was from Americana UK, which is a London. I'm not sure where they're based out of. I should know that. But the very first line of their article about us is, "If Bill Monroe and Emmylou Harris road tripped to Burning Man and then moved to the mountains to write music and ski, you would have Pixie and the Partygrass Boys."
Bernie, man. Oh, boy.
Very descriptive.
Phil Monroe and Bernie with this cute little suit on and the whole 9 yards. They were the best dressed band I ever saw. I saw them open up for Bob Weir once, Bob Weir and Wasserman, at Clinton's second inauguration. They played for free on the lawn in D.C.
Whoa.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah. So, all right, well, we kind of got where you're going. You mentioned different people's songwriting. Is this always a collaborative thing? Everybody bring their own tunes in? How does that work with you guys?
Yeah, Ben,
It kind of works out pretty well because we all write songs and we all kind of have a different style, but we've been playing together for so long that we kind of like know where we're going. Where like we can anticipate each other's stylistic approaches. So we arrange everything together as a band, but we all write songs, and everybody has a little different flavor.
Yeah, it's fun to play the guess who wrote this song. Because I think to us internally, it's very obvious which one of us wrote each song, but it's always fun to see that we have been playing together long enough that we've stylistically blended into people. People get ones wrong that I would think are very obvious sometimes. So.
And you all have an album. Is it still slated to come out in the spring of 23? I know I've been reading up a little bit about that. Like, where are you all at with that? Would love to know how that came together.
Yeah, so that one goes back to kind of the formation of our band that I was talking about with the guys. So our next album is coming out in, sometimes I forget when the seasons change, so I guess technically it will be early spring. And this one is going to be our first cover album. And it is a little bit of a tribute to the fact that we hit the ground running so hard because we knew so many covers, and that for a while we were learning each other's originals, people thought we were a cover band, which was very understandable, but also we all took very personally. I understand why people said that. We probably should have been a little bit more like, no, but we were like, what? A cover band? Um, but to kind of pay homage to that and how we started and how we all learned to play together, we are putting out our first cover album. Um, Ben, do you want to talk to, or Amanda, either one of you, to how we kind of picked the songs for this one? I know Ben just wrote the back end commentary on the song, so maybe he can speak to the overarching why we picked the range of songs that we did.
Well, initially we were thinking decades. So there's like a sprinkling of like an arc of stuff from, you know, the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and early 2000s. But I think we pretty quickly abandoned the decades idea and just decided to do our most favorite ones. And some of them are like really cool arrangements and like really interesting, and I think are really sweet. And then some of them are like just kind of silly. But we kind of had to throw those on because I mean, I think a cornerstone of this whole band for everybody has always just been trying to have a lot of fun and like, you know, do our favorite thing and have a good time. And there's a very silly aspect to that. So we have like We Like to Party and The Bad Touch on there, which are some pretty silly selections.
The bluegrass cover the world did not know that it needed.
All right. All right, that was great. And then obviously we got into the songwriting and the albums. What are your thoughts on any of that, Amanda, from Chicken to the new albums?
Yeah, you know, what struck me in the conversation, but also having seen them live a number of times, is just that I think this is a band that absolutely does what they want to do, and they do fit, you know, into different genres. Of course, bluegrass mostly, but in terms of their songwriting and whatnot, I just feel like they chart their own path, and I really love that.
Yeah, you can't ask for more than that. And they seem so fun, so enthusiastic.
Yes.
About what they were doing. So, all right, this next clip, we get into the roots, some of the roots of the band and live versus studio. So let's check that out, and I'll see you on the other side. Right. Do you have punk roots?
I did a lot of punk in high school, and like that's been a lot of music that's been a music that I've always loved as an
I just want to
kid.
note, I was gonna say, since we can all see each other, but this is just audio, I do want everyone to know that Amanda is very adamantly shaking her head no, that she does not have.
I was about to ask about that. She's like, oh, no.
I will say that, I think Ben and I both have these little gothic punk baby backgrounds. And when we started the band, I do recall us saying to each other, I said, well, I'm a folk singer songwriter who studied theater in college. And Ben was like, oh, I'm a jazz guitarist. And we both said, yeah, but we want to like break stuff. So what do we do? And somehow it turned into subversive jamgrass.
When you like remove drums from the band, you can actually like play a lot harder and faster without overwhelming everyone, which is something I really love about bluegrass. And like I think a big thing for on the subject of subversive nature of a lot of the stuff we write about and the kind of the way our music manifests. Like for me, it's less trying to like subvert the genre because, like Pixie said, I basically learned how to play bluegrass from Amanda, and since she's joined the band, like I've been diving into the genre of bluegrass and trying to understand it on a more traditional level. And like but the songwriting is heavily influenced from living in Utah, which is like a pretty conservative state, and there's like a very, heavy religious influence with the Mormon church nearby. So it's like kind of like, it's like there's a sense of like when you're living in Utah, there is a sense of like if you're Mormon or you're not. And it's like you're either part of that culture or you're pushing against it, which kind of creates a little bit of forever angst. And bluegrass is a great genre to get that out. I tell you what.
I guess Amanda, okay, now I'm curious, since you do have more of those roots. I mean, how do you feel about kind of what we're discussing, like your perspective on what you all do? Do you have the same feelings that Pixie does with certain songs, or is that maybe not as much of a different thought for you?
Oh, well, I grew up in Kentucky, and I was classically trained my whole life, but we moved to Kentucky when I was 7, and that's when I picked up the bluegrass. My parents like took me to jam sessions and stuff, and I don't know, I never really felt like I fitting quite in with bluegrass, but I didn't really fit quite in with the classical either. And I've played in other cover bands that cover a wide range of genres, and I don't know. I tend not to do very well sticking with any one thing for a very long time. So like um, it really helps that we like kind of do different things all the time because I never get bored with because we're not really locked into. That's what partygrass is really to me. Like it's like if you want to define it, it's not bluegrass. It's like it's a wilder, more eclectic version of bluegrass. It's partygrass. So yeah, that's what partygrass means to me.
Okay, so when you go in the studio, did you use the studio as a live in studio thing? Hey, we're going to run through the songs all of us together. Or did you embrace the studio and do the separate tracks, remixes, overdubs, any of that kind of stuff?
So we yeah, we've been working with the same engineer in the same studio since our very first live in studio where we hooked Amanda and found out she was actually in the band. So we've been lucky enough to work with Mike Sassich at Manverse Music for everything, and we've really figured out in collaboration with him what works really well for us in the studio. And what we have found works the best for us to keep the energy that we have as a live band playing together, but also take advantage of the sort of extra element of almost perfection. I mean, nothing's ever perfection, but that you can get from the studio. What we do is that we record the rhythm sections of the band live. We all go in together and we record the song live. Pretty much other than me. And I say other than me because I go in an isolation booth and sing the vocals so that everybody knows where we are in the song. And then if I play instruments on it, I'll go back in and do them on top so that my vocals and the ukulele or guitar or whatever are not blending in the same mic. But otherwise, we do the instrumentation in one go, and then we lay the vocals and the solos on top of that. Just since all of us are a little bit of perfectionists, and I think that we would have to probably run the entirety of the song 30 times in the studio before someone was
To
like,
capture, right.
my solo was great.
So that's advantageous to you being in the studio.
Yeah, it's fun. I think it's really fun, and it definitely puts partygrass tends to polish a lot of our arrangements live, we learn the song well enough to play it, and then we start playing it a lot, and then it evolves. And it is always really interesting to take it into the studio and put it under that microscope lens and actually really look at what we've been doing. And I feel like it does evolve the songs every time we do that.
Well, then by the time we're done recording the
to really-
songs, we're playing them totally differently too. And I'm like, oh man, I do that solo so much better now. Can I like re-record last year? And then we would never get done if they let me do that. So we don't do that.
There's definitely a time with the studio where we all just kind of have to be like, good enough. And then you play it for someone and they're like, wow, that's incredible. You're like,
That was incredible
thank
a
you.
year ago.
I've only yeah. When we were recording our last album, Andrew and I, just by circumstance of who was in town and who was available, Andrew and I ended up being the two that did most of the final mixing with our engineer. And I didn't realize how many times I'd listened to the song until Dance specifically had been released. And I was in the car with Zach, our bass player, listening to the song. And I, completely unconscious of doing it, sang the mandolin solo note for note. And he just went, how many times have you listened to this song? I was like, oh, right. Oh, yes. You do that when you're mixing. I don't even know what the song sounds like anymore.
Yeah, so, Kevin, I always think it's very interesting and thought-provoking to ask those kind of questions of performing live versus going into the studio. Do they have a preference? How does that work for them? It sounds like this is a band that really makes the most of their time in the studio in a lot of different ways. And like everything else, they're really trying to maximize their enjoyment of it too. And that was fun to hear. Like, it's not a drudge for them, right? They seem to really love it.
It do, and they seem to embrace it, which is great. I mean, there's the limitations of the studio, I guess, show up in the live performance, but also the limitations of a live performance, the reverse of it. It's a hard balance to strike, but their music, it seems to me, lends itself to that, as opposed to a more jam band where it's almost like a section of a song is what the song on the album ends up being.
Exactly.
So, all right, we have a Twitter account and we have an Instagram account, and they're both at All That Jam Pod. So you should go over, follow them so you can keep up what's going on. Next week, we're going to have Peter Negroponte from Gorilla Toss. I got to speak with him. Life got in the way, and Amanda wasn't there with me, but fantastic. I'm so in love with this band. Turns out he is a Fish fan and Grateful Dead fan, so that's going to be interesting. What else do you think we have going on next week there?
Yeah, so Kevin, in the theme of maybe New Year and kind of looking ahead a little bit, I know we always talk about tours and things that are coming up, but I'm trying to put together some thoughts on what people want to see from this year. Now that we've had kind of a full calendar year of music, right? And so we're kind of past that point where we were a couple years ago. What do people want? What do they want to see out of their live music schedules this year?
Nice. So I guess we will be digging into that, asking some questions. So again, follow us, Twitter, Instagram, and also we have a website. And amazingly, it's called allthatjampod.com.
Wow.
Real easy to find. We have an email list, which 2023 will be the year that the email list actually comes to fruition. So you should hop on early. And with that, I guess we're going to get out of here for the week. We'll be back next week, like I said. And remember, stay beautiful, but don't stay underground too long. I'll talk to you soon, Amanda.
Cheers.